All right, let's do a little sound check momentarily, just a moment. Looks like we are up and running. So welcome to everyone. Happy Friday night. And if you're in the other side of the world, we're talking about Saturday morning. So either way, hello to all of you. And for some of you, this is the second time today I've seen you, which is a lot for me. So welcome and thanks for being here. Please hit the like. If you're lurking, just watching, whatever the case may be, please join the chat. We do appreciate all the chat goers, without a doubt. And if necessary, I boot your ass on out of here. So that's another deal. But welcome to everyone. And if you're on the replay, be sure immediately to hit the like and to leave some comments down below, because although we may have missed you in the live chat, we can appreciate your input on the replay. So thank you for all of that, and welcome to everybody. Let me say hello to a few friends here before we get rolling. And I did invite a guest. Don't know if she's got my message or not, but we may or may not be hearing from someone. But never mind that. I've got another plan in the meantime, and so let's get rolling here. So first, before we start, I want to say hi to Amy. Definitely, she was first here, as she usually is, and she posted our support pathway links, and I pinned them at the top of the chat. So please do support the channel. This should be a fundraiser to get me caught up with our fundraising efforts. So please support the channel. And thanks, Amy, for reminding us. And what's up, Pam Sheehan, Sweet Dude Shibby, Court of Public Opinion, Lisa, Missouri Mimo of 9, Oleg Cat, Siren Cindy, Mino Dino, Cosmo. We got Tracy Thornton, Who's Your Daddy 11. Don't Tease Me, Bro. Steve Z Stubbs. We got M, Fur Baby Daddy, Heather Brown, Brenda Mays, Miss K, Dennis McKean, Rebecca Ann 1965, who you need to go subscribe to. We have Plain Iron, B who else is in here? Bonnie, Heavy Metal Rehab, Jonathan Smith, Gilletta One, Shirley Clifford, M. We got Laura Naran, Mandy. We have Deputy Dog and Rambo. And, who am I missing? Mar R. Bezo Jones. Crystal. All right, we're getting there. And I think I may have caught everyone in the live chat. If I missed you, apologize. But hey, there are more watching, so get your butts in that live chat. If you're watching, don't be awkward. Say hello in the live chat. Appreciate that. Wow, so what a day. Now, what's up, Digital? Digital sneaking in at the last minute. And Dumplings Gammy and Donnie Pitbull Coons. Look, there's some there. Thank you for listening and coming on in. What's up, Sunflower Soul? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Y'all get in here in this live chat. Um, what was I getting at? Digital. Oh yeah. Boy, I tell you what, people. Look, don't take this personally, okay? If this applies to you, just give it some thought. But my God, people are so impressionable. People will just run with the latest fad like it's nothing. You basically, I mean, you guys are triggered in the worst way possible. And I'm telling you, anyone running out around here, telling you that Ron Logan, lone wolf, killed these girls in Delphi. Ugh. I just gotta say, I have to doubt the intelligence of that person and anyone willing to repeat that, especially when it's a fad. So some reason. All right, someone please explain to me why this week suddenly it becomes a fad to jump on the Ron Logan killed the girls bandwagon, when we know damn well for more than 7 years his name's been out there. I mean, pretty obvious, and we've covered ourselves here on this channel very closely or very thoroughly. We've covered the FBI search warrant, and we've gone over in detail how important I believed that document was because of the timeline it laid out and some things like that. And please be aware that Ron Logan didn't work out. All right. So they went in his house. They turned it inside out. There was absolutely nothing they could do with Ron Logan ever since day one. And because you had a few jailhouse third party confessions that have also been known about for years. Suddenly this week, his name is brought up in a filing, and everyone loses their damn minds. And I just got to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not with you on that. Okay. I'm not with you on that. Uh, I'll never be with you on that. If it's contingent upon me being with you on that, that we are friends or not, then I guess we're not friends because there's no effing way. Okay. There's no effing way. Now, there's a whole difference between Ron Logan being a lone wolf killer of these two little girls, and Ron Logan harboring criminals on his property and possibly having intimate knowledge of what actually did transpire, and possibly even being a witness to it. But hey, that's my opinion. If you're here, it's because you're either hate watching or you want my opinion. And anyway, I am just I'm taken aback. I'm astounded. I'm basically hitting the floor this week because I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You got people around here trying to convince people that Ron Logan is a lone wolf killer of two little girls in Delphi. Come on, man. Like, look, are we in 2025 or are we in 1925? Uh, so I'm liable to get triggered, okay, by even the mention of it. So please don't mention it. And I know there's someone here already trying to trigger me into going on to a rant. So please don't do it. Listen, I said earlier. Oh, by the way, I was on Mr. Nick Starrow's stream earlier today, and I shared it on the community page. I highly recommend you guys take a look at that stream in your off time, if you're able to. I was honored to be a guest, and it was a good it was a good conversation there with Mr. Starrow, and yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is oh man, hold on. See, I'm already getting a little sidetracked here. Just a okay. Sorry, I'm a little sidetracked, but I'll get back to what I'm actually trying to do. Um, hmm. Well, so what I was heading towards there was that listen, I just don't know why we have to continually go back and backtrack and rehash things that have been pretty clearly delineated. But what would I say? I would say the fact that anyone is looking at that enhanced bridge guy image, the one we've all been given from the very beginning, the fact that you're going back and looking at that and trying to make comparisons to any individual is really, in my opinion, completely asinine. Okay, completely asinine. What I would suggest is let's wait until we get the actual imagery from the phone that was found under the bodies at Delphi. Let's get that imagery. Let's take a very close look ourselves at that unedited imagery, the untampered, the uninterpolated, the enhanced imagery. And once we are able to look at that unenhanced raw footage, perhaps then we can do some side by sides and compare to different individuals. But the fact, see, you guys are it actually turns out to be like hypocritical, or at a bare minimum, what do you call it? Like contradictory, because you're going to you want to say that that image has no meaning because it's been enhanced to the point of being meaningless by being interpolated as it was, which is basically creating out of thin air facial features and body structure. Okay, but then at the same time, you want to say, when it's convenient, you want to say, no, no, he looks like Ron Logan. It's Ron Logan. Well, here's the deal. It's either an enhanced, unusable, modified, tampered image that's worthless in its current form, or it's absolutely spot on and yeah, it looks like Ron Logan. You can't have both. You can't have it both ways. Same deal with the concept of jailhouse confessions regarding this murder. Do you know how many people have confessed to this murder? I mean, do I need to mention that there's a couple people on this YouTubes who have confessed to this murder or these murders? There have been many confessions to the Delphi murders, including individuals who were incarcerated at the time. But if you're going to say that Richard Allen's confessions have no meaning, then you also need to be able to agree that Ron Logan's alleged confessions through a third party relaying them also have no meaning. So I'm very hard line on this. I'll die on this hill. Look, there's a whole lot you can say about Ron Logan without suddenly latching on to a fucking secondhand confessions that you have no idea about the validity of, and a bridge guy image that you think matches him, when there are several bridge guy images that don't even match each other. Remember, bridge guy was initially taller and slimmer, and then he got squeezed down and made shorter and fatter. Like these image modifications were significant. And so in all ways, I have to say that the going with the trends of the day just make absolutely no sense to me. But a long way of saying it doesn't mean that that there is not some concern with Ron Logan. And from the very beginning, my concern was, first of all, that, hey, they tried to set up Ron Logan by dumping them bodies on his property. You know, that was my first concern with him. My second concern with him was that he was harboring criminals. You know, he was providing a safe place for people like Garrett Kurtz, Brad Holder, little Snowburger kids, and others. Okay. And if you don't know what was going on at Ron's in the year leading up to the Delphi murders, then you probably should go get informed of what was actually happening at Ron's on a regular basis, and what type of people were hanging at Ron's on a regular basis. And then you might be able to say, well, yeah, at a bare minimum, Ron is responsible by harboring the types who would harm these girls. Okay. And then additionally, he may have had information about these murders because of that. He may have known who did it. He may have somehow been involved in it. He may have not have been involved in the murdering. He may have been involved in the cover up or the staging or the hiding or look, there's a whole lot of involvement he may have had. But it's just so frustrating to me. But here's what's interesting to me. There were elements, there were reasons that he's brought into these documents, and I think it's pretty cool. Okay, I think it's pretty cool. So I thought, hey, you know what we should do tonight? Because you may remember the other day. Let's see, when was this? Well, geez, it was only 2 days ago. I did a show called "Flame Throwing the Delphi BS." Okay, so if you missed that, go watch it after this one, "Flame Throwing the Delphi BS." Because we went through all of the documents from Monday and Tuesday fairly thoroughly, and I showed, you know, the blah 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 exhibits and footage of the van and all that stuff. But we won't do that tonight. But what I'd like to do is and look, I'm pinning it in the chat on the big channel there. What I like to do tonight is maybe we can do a brief study guide on the same material. So I thought, hey, let's do this. Let's go through and make a little study guide on the highlights from the documents filed Monday. The motion to correct error, to present evidence or preserve evidence, and such and such and such. You get it? That's what I'm talking about. So that's what I want to get into. Now, let me see. Listen, and I'm not going to argue. See, I've already made myself clear, but I'm telling you right now, if the FBI was able to do anything about Ron Logan, he would have been arrested for the Delphi murders. Do you understand what my perspective is? Okay, good. All right, so just a moment. All right, so what are we looking at here? This is the motion to preserve specific evidence. And I did mention this on Nick's show today. I think this is important. And so I wanted to start off our little study guide with this. All right, so here we go. I'm not going to read for you like babies. Okay, we've already been through this, so I'm just going to hit the highlights. Um, so what we got here, they're requesting all physical evidence taken from the crime scene. Okay, pay attention, please. Now's the time. Get our little study guide going. All physical evidence taken from the crime scene or near the crime scene. Okay. Now notice that's a statement right there, right? That's something. For instance, what do we know was at the crime scene disregarding this document? Well, let's say the two victims and some sticks. Okay. Well, that's not evidence that can be preserved. So let's put that aside. And what else? Well, Abigail had clothing on, right? So it would be that, and shoes. So it would be that. Um, Now, what else do we have here? And there's an alleged bullet right at the crime scene. Then there's the alleged phone from underneath Abby's body. Okay, but here there are additional points, and I think this is what's important here, including any belts. Now, belt. This immediately tells me, do we have one or do we have more than one belts? Okay. So I believe there's a belt. Um, cigarette butts. Cigarette butts. Butts. Plural. Cigarette butts. So now I'm thinking there's one or more cigarette butts. Electronic items, whether or not they were working. Well, you could look at it in a number of ways in that electronic item. Well, definitely the phone found under Abby's body would be one, right? Electronic items, whether they are working or not, it immediately leads me to believe we're talking about an extra phone that's in non-working condition, at least a cigarette butt or two or three, at least a belt or two. Okay. I think that was important. So as far as our little as far as our little study guide, I think it's a good way to start here. Is we're talking about things that we have not really thought about before, which are some of these items. Okay. I also mentioned the DNA swabs before, during, after trial. Well, before trial means all the way back to February 14th, 2017. During trial means during trial. Afterwards means even after trial. All DNA swabs, which for me, the way that this is phrased, before, during, after, would mean every DNA swab you've ever had that you still have. Okay. So those are some important points to put in our little checklist. Um, all forensic evidence obtained during the investigation or even during trial or afterwards. Well, damn, isn't that funny? Isn't that something? Isn't that something? All DNA before, during, after. So that means at all, any piece of DNA swab at all. And now we're talking about any forensic evidence at all. Isn't that interesting? So we've now covered all DNA swabs, all forensic evidence at all. And we've already mentioned the few items that we had not thought of before in number one. And then here now in number four, any and all reports or lists that identify anyone whose interviews were erased while in possession of law enforcement or the state of Indiana. And I also mentioned that I thought that was interesting because we do have this conflict where there's mention of no, we cannot account for what was lost. Remember, back in March, possibly, which is we're coming on a year to that. We're almost to March again, so almost a year ago, that March 18th hearing. But the concept of no, we don't have any way to account for all of those 70 days of deleted interviews. Well, it was funny because then when trial came, the story changed to, oh yeah, absolutely, we know who was deleted in those 70 days, and we've gone back and we've checked up on all of that and followed through with all of that, blah 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 blah. Okay, so understand that the fact that conflict arises is very telling. And then Now that it's being asked that all those reports or alleged list of whose interviews were erased and all of that, you notice that this is being asked for preservation. It makes you wonder, has the defense not received those alleged list and reports from all of those deleted interviews? I bet you they haven't. So I think that's why they're asking that that be preserved. Okay. And then all evidence on the state's exhibit list that may be exculpatory. I think that's pretty difficult. I think that's pretty difficult to ask there, because you're asking the people who don't want to exculpate Mr. Allen for a determination of what evidence on that list may be exculpatory. It's pretty interesting there. I think you messed up on number 5. Okay. Uh, it should have just been all evidence identified on the exhibit list, because asking them to make a judgment about whether it may be exculpatory in nature is pretty insane. They're going to say, oh, there's absolutely nothing exculpatory when it comes to Richard Allen. So that's that. It clarifies as well that this is not an exhaustive list of items, but a few specific items. But let's be clear here. If this judge was to allow this, okay, if the judge is going to allow this, I guarantee you it will be limited to these 5 points here. It will not be everything, right? Because they're going to be sure to delete as much as they can. You know what we're dealing with here. Okay, so that gets that out of the way, which was my intention here. Get that out of the way. All right. Now what we got here, verified motion to correct errors. All right. And again, we've been through this in detail, so I'm not going to go through all of it in detail, but it's worth talking about. So we'll do bullet point type of looking at this. All right, so just looking here. All right. Yeah, good point, Bezo Jones. Good point. You would think that everything would be preserved until this has all run its course. Wouldn't you automatically think that that's the way it should be? Are we just going to go around willy-nilly deleting evidence like we already have? And keep in mind the severity of this situation. Like the first 6 days of interviews, do you not think that those were important days? The first 6 days, they would have talked to everyone most important in the first several days. But that's all gone forever. And then what is it? I don't know, 64 more days, which is 2 months plus. So not only the first week, but then another 2 months completely gone. Question: if this was your kid, okay, if this was your son accused of this crime, and there had been 70 days deleted, what would you think? But yeah, Bezo Jones has a great point here. You would think that all evidence would be protected until the appeals process is exhausted. All right. So again, I want to go through bullet points from this motion to correct errors. And I've said this before. I think this is a beautifully, a really nicely put together document. I just don't agree with a certain take on it that you guys are running with in general. You know, regarding all of a sudden Ron Logan's a killer. Okay, I'm not taking that bait. But otherwise, other than the stupid takeaway that people are coming away with this from this with, I think this is a great document here. So let's look at it again. So we got deprivation of counsel. Okay, deprivation of counsel at the safekeeping proceeding, which is a critical stage. And there's been let me put this down. The troll farm has already been screaming and yelling about this, okay, which is telling me this. Look, let's be fucking clear. Frank Meister don't know shit about the law, okay? You know what's happening? I bet you, I guarantee you, what is happening is Nick McClellan and Jerry Holman are giving talking points to the YouTubers to how to argue this, okay, on the public forums, because what they're coming out and saying, you're gonna laugh. You're gonna let me read it, because if you didn't see it, whoa, buddy, whoa, Jessica, you know, Jesus. So they're saying, they're coming out and saying shit like this. Watch, let me grab it. I don't even get it wrong. Let's see. If an attorney is hired but does not file an appearance in court, the court is not liable for the attorney's failure to appear. The responsibility lies solely with the attorney, who could face potential sanctions from the court for not properly representing their client by not filing a notice of appearance. Now, do you really think that this fucking troll farm YouTuber came up with that statement? Or do you think that was handed to them by somebody on the inside to say, go say this? This is the argument. Well, I'll just answer that for you. The troll farmers are being handed talking points on how to argue this point, because this was a bad point. And remember, this was Monday, but we didn't learn about it until Tuesday. And by Wednesday, that was what the troll farmers were running out, screaming and yelling. Okay, so let's look at this though. 353311.1 governs safekeeping proceedings for pretrial detainees, which Richard Allen was. Upon motion by the parties alleging that an inmate in a county jail awaiting trial is in danger of serious bodily injury or death, or represents a substantial threat to the safety of others, the court shall determine whether the inmate is in imminent danger. Okay? All right, because see, someone is in here fucking with. You know what? I'm about to, but here's how this is going to work. Look, we're severing a lot of ties tonight. I'll put it this way: we're severing a lot of ties tonight. Okay, whine and cry like little babies, and go somewhere else and do it. I don't need you. And that goes for everyone who's fucking whining and crying. Okay, obviously you're here for a reason. And if you don't like what I'm saying, then go somewhere else where it's not being said. Are we grown-ups here? If I go to a bar and I don't like the band or the music that's in the bar, am I going to go beat up the band, or am I going to get the fuck out of there and go somewhere where I like the music? All right. So back to what matters, which it should be the Delphi murders. Okay? If you're in here pretending to give a shit about the Delphi murders, let's get up in here and talk about it. Yeah, Jim Christman says drink, or you can just drink more till the music sounds better. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Jesus. No, Joseph, it's a place for whatever the fuck I want it to be. Listen, this is not let me lay some law down too. This is not your channel. This is my channel, okay? I say what I want, I do what I want. It's obvious the way that this is. Now, apparently, like a bunch of you butthurt fags, or you're coming over here for a reason. Is this information hurting? Are you butthurt? This information this week must be hurting a lot of people, because a whole lot of people are getting upset. I noticed we've had a pretty peaceful month ever since the guilty verdict came down, and then the sentencing. Everything's been kind of cool. All that's been happening is the PR rounds by all the retards from the state. But suddenly, this week now, we got all the trolls coming back into the channels to scream and yell and whine and kick and moan like little children. It's okay. Hey, I don't hold grudges. I'll be here when you finish whining and your diaper's changed, and you suck it up and you decide that you're over it. I'll still be here. Okay. Now, Jesus, man, I've never seen people be so fucking childish over a double murder of two little kids. You know. But I mean, this is the Delphi murders for you. All right, so the point I was getting at is Troll Farm has been crying about this, given, and obviously they've been given the talking points, or at least at a minimum coached or alluded to by some state actors, right? That's very obvious, because none of these people even have high school diplomas, or whatever you want to call it. But they're trying to act as if they know the law. Okay, but we're here. Here, what we have is that there's another code, Indiana 353311-2, that says right of inmate to refuse transfer. The inmate or receiving authority is entitled to a post-transfer hearing upon request. And here's the bottom line: the inmate may refuse a transfer if the only issue is personal safety. Okay. Now, here we come with some facts. Mr. Allen was interrogated and arrested on October 26, 2022 by Jerry Holman and booked into the Carroll County Jail under a pseudonym. Let's stop there and talk about that, actually. Craig Ross Renfro. Do you know that that is an actual person? Okay. So why would they book him under that name? Oh, there's a reason. There's a reason. Because his name was already in the system. It was like a glove, and they could slide Richard Allen on under that identity, not create a new identity, not raise any red flags, not throw up any indicators to anyone. So they just slipped him on in under an already a pre-existent profile, Craig Ross Renfro. Um, the next day, Kathy Allen's wife hired an attorney, Brett Gibson, to represent Mr. Allen. Exhibit 1, okay, affidavit of Kathy Allen. Well, here's what we did. I showed you this. This is the affidavit where she says, yes, I hired uh, Mr. Gibson. All right. You see that? And then there are exhibits regarding that, like this. Okay. October 27th. You see? Uh, and let's see, we should have this one too. Then we have Brad Rossi, which maybe I'll stop for a moment and let me read this. Remember, this is just our little study guide here. I'm a lawyer, been practicing for a while, blah, blah, blah. I've been Richard Allen's attorney. In an attempt to learn whether Brett Gibson had communicated with McClelland or Lesenby or any other LE concerning the fact that he was representing Richard Allen, effective October 26. I reached out to Brett Gibson. Okay. Purpose of my inquiry was to determine whether McClelland, Lesenby, or any other LE were aware that on October 26, Brett Gibson was representing Allen after his arrest. So you realize what this means. Immediately upon arrest, she went and gave 5 fucking grand to Brett Gibson to represent. Okay. All right. Now, Attorney Gibson responded and indicated that he was retained following Richard Allen's October 26th arrest. A copy of email is incorporated. Okay. Furthermore, Attorney Gibson stated that he communicated with Nick McClelland both by email and cell phone call, alerting him that he was his attorney. Furthermore, Attorney Gibson stated Prosecutor McClelland helped arrange a meeting between Richard and the attorney. So then we have this, which is that email. Okay. And all of this has been exhibited. I've done it before. I'm just showing you again, just to get us into some context. All right. October 27th, Kathy notified me Richard had been arrested. I've been retained. This is an email to Nick. I've been retained to represent Richard Allen. His wife, Kathy Allen, advised me Richard was detained yesterday. She said he has not been released. However, I called the jail to tell me he's not there. Do you know his whereabouts? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then we got I wanted to show that one again. Where is it? It's called number C. No, it's B. Okay, here. What do we have here? No, it's not this. This is it must be A that I'm looking for. Okay. Apologize for the exhibit 1A. That's not it either. Oh gosh. Okay. 1A. Oh man. Can I just kick myself now? Okay. Let's do it again. 1A. Boom. This is it. Thursday. Payment receipt for $5,000. Kathy Allen, representing Richard Allen. All right. All right. I got that out of the way. The whole point was to get that out of the way. Okay, good. Done. Out of the way. Um, Now, where are we? We're here. So, what emerges is that Sheriff Lesenby confirmed receipt of Mr. Gibson's letter by telephone on the evening of the 27th. So, listen, I guess I want to get myself up here. Listen, clearly, can we all agree now that as of October 27, it's been proven that by October 27, Richard Allen had representation from Mr. Gibson, Tobe Lesenby, and Nicholas McClellan were aware. So counsel retained, Tobe Lesenby made aware of, and Nicholas McClellan made aware of. All proven just now in your face with receipts. And if you didn't see it then, you can go watch it on the other show where I show it again, or you can go watch the attorney's postings, search it on the YouTubes or fucking Reddits, wherever you want. The point is that October 27th, there is representation. Okay. Okay. Now, important part here. Next page. On October 28th, without Mr. Gibson present, even though McClellan and Lesenby both knew Mr. Allen was being represented by Mr. Gibson, Mr. Allen was charged with 2 counts of murder, and Judge Diener held Mr. Allen's initial hearing. Shortly after his initial hearing, same day, October 28th, next day, okay, Allen was whisked away to White County Jail without a safekeeping order. On November 1st, a letter from Mr. Allen was mailed. Okay, in that letter, Allen requested the court appoint counsel for him. Nothing in the letter indicated he was not already represented. For some reason, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I want to get over here to the safekeeping proceeding was illegal from start to finish. Sheriff Lesenby transferred Mr. Allen to White County on October 28 with no safekeeping order in place. Sheriff Lesenby had no standing to make a safekeeping request on November 3rd. Once Allen was in White County Jail, White County was sheriff statutorily authorized to make that safekeeping request under Indiana Code 3533.11.1. Lesenby had no standing to make the safekeeping request. Judge Diener had no jurisdiction to issue it because it was literally void if it grants rights or relief to a party that does not have standing. Okay, that's important here in the first paragraph up here. And then it says, secondly, Mr. Allen had the right to have a judge other than Diener decide because Judge Diener had engaged in ex parte communications. This is big. Helping Lesenby draft his safekeeping order or request. Lesenby, at the bottom here, November 3rd, request for by sheriff of Carroll County to transfer the inmate was not served on anyone. There's no service certificate attached. And now it says, fourth here, Sheriff Lesenby's safekeeping request was not verified. There was no evidence before Judge Diener from which he could make a factual finding. Fifth, because a factual finding was required with no notice to the party, Sheriff Lesenby's safekeeping request, a hearing was required on the safekeeping request. Six, Allen had an absolute right to refuse being transferred. Sheriff Lesenby's safekeeping request alleged no statutorily authorized basis for safekeeping order, okay, which Allen could have refused, or his attorney. Mr. Allen had no opportunity to exercise his right to refuse a transfer. And for me, this last one, Mr. Allen's own absence from the safekeeping proceeding should be treated no differently than the absence of a lawyer. So for me, that last one is probably most profound, because even if you could make an argument to say whatever about the lawyer, blah, 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 Mr. Allen himself was not there to be a party to this proceeding. On top of that, they knew that there was a representation retained for Mr. Allen. So Mr. Allen himself was not present. His representation was not present. Both the requesting party and the prosecutor, and that be Lesenby and McClellan, were aware of his representation. Diener drew up the safekeeping request, which is another violation. Like, there are layers and layers of, dare I say, misconduct here, or at least inappropriate actions. Things should not have happened, okay? For me, all of that is big. It's really big. And remember, this is just part one of this motion to correct error. And for all of you naysayers out there is proof of Lesenby and Diener colluding on the safekeeping request. Remember, Lesenby said that he submitted something to Diener. Diener wrote it. Diener basically trashed it, wrote another one for him, gave it to him for him to again give right back to him. Do you understand what happened with Diener and Lesenby on this ex parte collusion for the safekeeping request? And there's proof of that. If you haven't seen it, do some homework. Okay. Oh, now let's bring this back. So this basically alleges that this is a violation of Sixth Amendment, okay, to completely deprive a defendant of counsel at a critical stage of a criminal prosecution. The safekeeping proceeding was critical, okay? Now, keep in mind, the interesting thing to me, and honestly, this is an interesting thought experiment. Mr. Allen or Mrs. Allen Mrs. Allen, on behalf of Mr. Allen, had retained counsel, that being Mr. Gibson. That's one point. And the additional point is that prior to the safekeeping proceeding, Mr. Allen had requested appointment of counsel. So are we understanding that that seems like it's a double layer of representation? In other words, counsel had been retained. Maybe Mr. Allen didn't know that counsel had been retained that could have helped him in this instance. He was looking towards the future. But as of November 1st, he had requested the appointment of counsel, which means that whether or not Mr. Gibson was technically, after November 1st, appointed or retained for Mr. Allen, that at least after November 1st, there was a request by Mr. Allen for appointment of counsel, from that moment forward, he should have been subject to state counsel. So my opinion there is that there's absolutely no excuse, because if you want to disregard Mr. Gibson, you still have the responsibility yourself for a public defender in this instance. So you compound that with the collusion with Mr. Diener and Mr. Lesenby. It smells really bad. It smells really, 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 really bad. And the more I think back on it, I said this the other day on that flame throwing episode. I said, you know what? Smells to me like this would be more of a reason for Diener to step down than anything. All right, you understand what I'm getting at? So we always questioned as to why Diener stepped down and recused himself. And we had assumed it was because the PCA was so shoddy that he knew he shouldn't have signed that PCA. But I think it's even more likely that it wasn't just the knowledge that that PCA was weak and somewhat misleading. I think it was probably more, I would weigh it more towards this, that if he knew that he participated in ex parte communication and providing Lesenby that safekeeping request, and then he went ahead and signed his own safekeeping request, and he realized probably after the fact that there was counsel retained for Mr. Allen, which he may not have been privy to that knowledge at the moment he signed it, but he may have become aware, oh shit, when I signed that I shouldn't have signed because I was the one who actually handed it to Lesenby to hand right back to me. He might have understood, oh shit, you mean he had retained counsel at the time and we didn't have him or his counsel present? I think that it's more likely that he would have stepped down because of that reason. Or maybe it's a combination of the two, that he signed such a shoddy PCA, knowing that it was a little misrepresentative of the facts. And then on top of that, he knew that he handed that safekeeping request to Lesenby, which was not proper. And then he knew that he went ahead and he had that proceeding without Mr. Allen being present or his counsel, Mr. Gibson. I think there's a whole lot of oh shit. Okay. And I think that maybe all of that put together, he thought, I'm in some deep shit. I better step down because I can't do another thing to this case. In other words, if I sign one more order, if I sign one more document, if I do one more thing with this case, I'm going to ruin it for everybody. So I better step down. And I think when I actually reflect upon why Diener would step down, somewhat seems like the mystery is solved. It really does to me. I think he reflected, he has a conscience, he realized he was going to fuck up this entire trial or this entire endeavor with Mr. Allen if he did one more thing wrong. So he said, the best I can do is recuse myself, and then I won't touch another thing. And hopefully what I've already done that was effed up won't be found out. But the problem is it has been found out because you have excellent attorneys. So we found out about that PCA, although it took some time. And now we found out about this safekeeping dilemma. Uh, so I'm sure that Diener stepped down because of these reasons. So let's continue though. I'm only supposed to be giving you bullet points. So, but it's hitting pretty good here when it says that Mr. Allen, either by himself or by counsel, was not afforded the right to be heard at the safekeeping proceeding, and that he had the right to refuse the transfer, and the court should vacate the convictions or set the motion for a hearing. 14th Amendment, NAPU, the state has presented testimony, Brad Weber. Okay, so moving on to Brad Weber. Now it gets really bad. Conviction obtained through false evidence that the representatives of the state known or should have known to be false. Very big deal. Okay, this is where it goes into the absolute kryptonite for the Delphi murders case against Richard Allen. And what that is the timeline. And let's put this down again. The timeline is the absolute kryptonite for this state's case. And they knew it, which is why they had to omit other witnesses from this proceeding or these proceedings. And they had to allow Mr. Weber to falsify his timeline. Okay, so you had witnesses who were omitted because they conflicted with the timeline. Then you had Mr. Weber being allowed to give a false timeline. And we're going to find out in the future that on top of that, you had Miss Eldridge giving expert testimony that proved another detrimental flaw in the timeline, which is that cell phone being unplugged or plugged in to the 3.5 millimeter jack and then later unplugged. That now, whatever was plugged into and unplugged from that jack after the time that the state says that Mr. Allen would have already left, then that immediately means someone else is handling that phone, which breaks apart the timeline. So you've got multiple layers of the destruction of the timeline here. And the odd thing is that this judge made certain that these problems in the timeline were not heard by the jury. Okay. Well, let's get back to this. So Monica Walla is brought into this. And I don't know. I don't know if you've read this. Okay. But if you haven't read this, please be aware that Monica Walla is brought into this. Oh, how rich. How rich. The state introduced an alleged confession by Mr. Allen to Dr. Monica Walla. Dr. Walla stated Mr. Allen said he abducted the girls, forced them down the hill. Walla said he was on the south side of Deer Creek planning on SAing the girls when he was interrupted by a van. Dr. Walla said Mr. Allen became scared, crossed Deer Creek, and then ended the lives of the girls. Now let's be real here. Come on. Let me ask you this, and I brought this up. Even if that story was correct, there's something that don't make sense. Okay. If he was planning to assault those girls and it's 12:30 and Brad Weber drives up, do you think he would have waited around another 27 minutes playing around with the dead girls' bodies? Do you think if he was startled away, frightened off by the, and keep in mind, this is considering the BS timeline. So if 12:30 Weber drives up the drive, startles Allen, he runs across the creek with the girls, immediately kills them, so that the phone falls at 12:32. Are you trying to have me believe that for 25 more minutes he stayed there? Like, I don't know about you, but if I'm startled and I'm killing some girls, do you think I'm going to stick around for 5 minutes? Much less 25? It's completely illogical. Being startled means you run away right away. So perhaps the fantasy could have worked like this. 12:30, he gets startled. He chases the girls across the creek. 12:32, the phone hits the ground on Ron Logan's property. He immediately has killed both girls. Okay. Well, I would say, shit, by 12:35, he's then over by the mirrors, running to his vehicle. That's an immediate series of actions. Get startled, run across the creek, assault both girls, and then run the hell off. Takes maximum 5 minutes from the time you're startled to the time you're back at your vehicle. Okay, you'd be gone. That's called being startled. Well, now something changes though. Okay, because according to this now, this has changed. Okay, because what we've done now is we've discovered that now there's a little glitch here. There's a little glitch. Okay, because there's a security camera that picks up Mr. Weber driving at 2:44, only 6 seconds away from 2:45. So let me show you that. All right, so no, let me show you this page for the timestamps. Okay. So right here, you see 2:45, or you can call it 2:44 if you want. 2:44, 2:45, Weber's driving by. Okay, you see the van? It's circled in red. That's 6 seconds from 2:45. Okay, 2:45. But see, according to the troll farm, this does not exist. Or this is just all wrong, or it just doesn't matter. He looks guilty. He looks guilty in the eyes. Okay, he looks guilty in the eyes. Enough about facts. Fuck the facts. Go with our fantasy. Okay, so there's Weber, 2:45. And then there's an additional data point, which is that at 2:50, according to the FBI, his phone is pinging on his property. Okay, so I would say by the preponderance of evidence, the cusp of 2:45 to 2:50, somewhere in between here and here, somewhere in between a video of him and a FBI confirmed cell phone ping of him, somewhere in between 2:45 and 2:50, Mr. Weber's arriving home. Now, question: how does that work with this whole timeline? Okay, and what's at play here is that the prosecutor allowed this false timeline that's contradicted by video evidence and FBI confirmed pings. Okay, so let's go back to this video evidence and FBI confirmed pings of his phone, kind of nailing him in at 245, 250. The prosecutor allowed a different story to be told. That's a problem. Again, let's look at this. It will say for you, it's going to be the next page. Well, maybe it's not. Oh, I got all mixed up. Okay. Here we go. This says for you on page 9, the state introduced testimony of Brad Weber, okay, that he arrived home in his van about 2:30. For Mr. Weber's testimony, the state argued Mr. Weber's arrival home was what interrupted Mr. Allen. The arrival of Mr. Weber's van at about 2:30 was a detail only the killer would know, said the state. But the problem is the state's contended that Liberty and Abigail died near 2:32. Okay. So if he arrived at 2:45 or 2:50, then his arrival at 2:30 could not have been a detail only the killer would know, because it did not happen. But remember, rhetorical question for you beautiful ladies out there. This is only going to the hotties in the chat. Who was it that extracted this detail only the killer would know from Mr. Allen? None other than Dr. Monica Walla. What are the odds? What are the odds? Yeah, what are the odds? She makes an appearance again in a big way. Oh, she is a crucial point in this entire scam, right? She's a nexus point. She is something else, a Delphi fangirl through and through. All right. Moving right along, because we're only hitting our remember, we are hitting our study guide bullet points. All right, and now we're getting to the money. We're getting to the money here. Because, I pissed off a lot of people in the beginning, and I haven't even started talking about Mr. Osbrook yet. Trust me, I'm saving that. But Ron Logan's confession to Reese Davis. Now listen, this ain't no new evidence, by the way. This has been known for quite a while. So, newly discovered my ass. Let me just let's go through all the bull crap, because I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but here's what's pertinent. Now this, keep in mind, this goes back to June 21st, 2017. Now, another rhetorical question before we get into that, because we want to nail down things that only the killer would know, quote unquote. That white van, okay, that white van or van, the concept, the base idea of a van being involved in somehow in this transpiring of events You do realize that goes back to 2017, right? Because trying to assert that that would be something only the killer would know when this is 2024 that this happens. Knowledge of the van goes all the way back to 2017. Well, the odd thing is, the only other thing that supposedly only the killer would know would be box cutter. Really? Box cutter? Really? Because they tried to use that at trial. Well, do you realize that this box cutter goes back to June 2017 as well? Yeah, let's prove it. Here are some of the notes from what is it? His name is Hansard, first sergeant, right? Hansard. There's some things here about walking, talking, knowing their dads and a mom, and grab the young shoulder and blah 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 blah. Okay. Then there's another series of notes that continue about knew one of their moms. I told him he had rabbits and horses. Do you want to go see the horses? The oldest didn't want to, but the little one wanted to see the horses. Blah blah blah. And we get here. Really, I mean, if this doesn't make your jaw hit the floor, okay. Oldest turned to help the youngest. Da 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 da. Started kicking. Youngest should I don't know, grab something, shoulder. Now he grabs the oldest. He got hit on the nose. Blah blah. Pulled box cutter out, slit oldest one's throat. Okay, you see that box cutter? Like let's see. Remember 2017 here. So if you look at the handwritten section here, it's the center portion. Pulled box cutter out. Slit oldest. One hit an artery. Pulled box cutter out. Okay, so for me, this whole thing with all of these confessions, right? This whole thing that everyone's all in an uproar about right now. What matters to me is right here. It says, so in addition to other details that fit the known facts, Ron Logan confessed to Reese Davis that he used box cutters to kill the girls. So my takeaway from this whole thing with Ron Logan is none of it matters except box cutters were a talking point in 2017, not something only the killer would know. So, isn't it? Let me remove this for a minute. Isn't it odd that white van or Brad Weber's van or a van was known in 2017? From 2017 on, a van was talked about. And now you look, and from 2017, a box cutter was mentioned. So is box cutter new? Is a van new? Are either of those things something only the killer would know? And here's another question. If Richard Allen knew information only the killer would know and he's a lone wolf killer, and if Ron Logan knew information only the killer would know and he's a lone wolf killer, well, that's a contradiction in and of itself, isn't it? Which one's the fucking killer? Richard Allen or Ron Logan? See, maybe you should pull the cotton out of your ears and the bullshit out of your brain and think for a minute. Neither one of those pieces of information is something only the killer would know. And it gets worse. Like, I love saying that. I just love, because it continuously gets worse with these people. Where is it? Let's see. I think we're here. Stacy Eldridge states dirt or water damage to the phone could not have caused the auxiliary jack on Liberty's phone to log wired headphone plugged in, wired headphone unplugged. Miss Eldridge's expert opinion is newly discovered evidence, blah, 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 blah. Well, I contend with that too, because no, come on. This was known. But this is referring to Miss Eldridge. So let's look at Miss Eldridge. Whoop, that's not it. This is it. Okay, she's giving some of her blah, 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 right? Her creds, her street creds here, which are significant, by the way. If you don't know this, go and read it. I'm not reading it for you, but she's basically FBI. She's basically FBI and better. All right. And what she says begins down here in number 12 is where it's important. Tracy Thornton, hold on. You know what? I don't put up with bullshit, Tracy. Tracy, I'll get you out of here in 2 seconds. Listen, I'm not going to kiss anyone's ass. I'm not going to kiss a single defense attorney's ass. I'm not going to kiss Michael Osbrook's ass. I'm not going to kiss your ass. And I'm not going to kiss McClelland's ass. Are you understanding that I'm not kissing anyone's ass here? I'm saying it. I'm telling it how it is. So blame the defense for this shit. Obviously, you haven't ever watched a thing I have said. Like, I don't know what kind of crack you're smoking, but you should probably go watch someone else. Well, who's blaming the defense then, Tracy? Because every time I make the mistake of looking at the chat, I see someone who's saying something stupid that triggers me. So who are you saying is blaming the defense? I'm not blaming the defense. I'm court of public opinion. He's a good person. So I still feel the same. No one's blaming the defense here. We're speaking facts, and you're sidetracking us. Court of public opinion is a friend of mine, and I'm not going to allow you to say that he's blaming them. He's not. I agree with him. Look, the fact that these defense investigators, these defense attorneys, the fact that they stopped presenting their defense at trial was an idiot move. Okay, do I need to really offend someone out here? Listen, I love Baldwin. I like Rozzi, and I pretty much adore Miss Jennifer Auger. But I'm telling you right now, my opinion on their performance as defense attorneys at this trial of Richard Allen is pretty fucking poor. They rested early when they could have gone another week. So yeah, I am critical of the defense for fucking up several times, including in the framing of this Odinist information rather than as a criminal syndicate. Okay, so yeah, I'm not the nicest person about the mistakes that have been made because I care about it. And I think that Mr. Court of Public Opinion is disappointed in the fact that these things transpired the way that they have, because they could have gone another week easily. They easily could have gone another week presenting their defense, and there was nothing stopping that. I think they got a little overly confident. They read the room wrong, and they fucked up. And I'm sure if those attorneys are as good as they appear to be, that would mean they're self-reflective. And I'm pretty sure they understand they messed up. I mean, because let's be real here. They lost the case when they didn't have to. So I apologize if anybody's feelings are hurt here. The intention is not to hurt your feelings. The intention is that real talk is what solves problems. Okay, not being nice, politically correct, and all of that shit. Because if we don't get to the root of the issue, the diseases will fester. And so the defense has dropped the ball in a number of ways, especially in the presentation of their defense in the trial, which is the reason that they lost. But all is not over, okay? Because we do have the possibility of appeal. So the game's not over, which is why we're still out here talking. And maybe they'll learn something from some of this talk, which is my objective. Anyway, I got a little fucking sidetracked there, but let's get back to what I was talking about, which was Miss Eldridge. Okay, this is where it's really important. Data from Liberty's phone showed that wired headphones were plugged in. At 5:44 p.m. Now, let me take another pause. I hope you people understand that at 5:49 p.m., someone left the geofencing. Okay, let's put it another way. You remember the 3 phones in the geofencing? The last of those 3 phones left the geofencing perimeter 5 or 4 minutes after that jack was unplugged. Does that seem significant to you? Let's read it again. At 5:44 p.m., wired headphones were plugged into the iPhone. At 49 p.m., the last of the 3 phones in the geofencing left the geofence, which means just about the amount of time it would take you to walk away from the area, that phone left. Doesn't that seem like kind of a strange coincidence? Like possibly the person carrying that last phone that left the geofencing could have handled the phone of Liberty German? And it says at 10:32 p.m., the wired headphones were unplugged. Which is almost 5 hours later, just short of 5 hours later. And remember, everybody, okay, don't be stupid, right? There was a search going on at 5:44. There was a search going on at 10:32. This was the only evidence of any wired headphones ever being plugged in and removed from the phone. Apple iPhone 6Ss were equipped with sensors to indicate water damage. There was no indication in the data from Miss German's iPhone that the sensor identified water damage to the phone. I would expect to find evidence of water damage to the phone. And remember, this is FBI lady, Miss Eldridge, not a brand new cop who doesn't know shit. Like she's a very seasoned digital expert. I reviewed the following extractions and reports in Discovery. Celebrite Logical Exam, February 15. Celebrite Method 1 to 3 Extraction Report, October 12, 2017. Digital Forensics Exam by Cecil, August 21st, 2019. Digital Forensics Exam Supplement by Cecil, August 18, 2024. None of the above reports or extractions contain evidence of dirt or water damage to the phone. Neither do they indicate that it was dirty or covered in debris. I reviewed photos of Liberty German's iPhone taken by Indiana State Police. The phone does not appear to be wet, dirty, or covered in debris. No pictures were taken of the phone displaying a message indicating liquid had been detected. No pictures were taken of the control center of the iPhone or of the control center of the iPhone to document headphones were being reported as plugged in when they were not. I reviewed the chain of custody. It did not document that it was received wet, dirty, or damaged. iPhones that have recent water damage are known to reboot spontaneously, requiring multiple attempts to complete the extraction with a forensic tool. No instances of this were documented. So in other words, she's saying the shit ain't dirty or wet, and yes, headphones were plugged in and unplugged. Okay, for me, that has meaning. Now, what has all the troll farm said? Well, the troll farm says, if you Google, there are reports on the Apple forum that someone got dirt in the phone and it triggered the headphone jack. Let's see. I think I've lost my place in this document here. Let's see. All right, here we go. It says, the state offered results of the seat of a pants fucking Google search by Christopher Cecil. According to First Sergeant Cecil, the Google hearsay told him in his expert opinion. I laugh every time I read that. I mean, apparently Google is an expert who's allowed to produce hearsay for the court here. And according to his expert opinion, by way of hearsay, Google says that the log on Liberty's phone showing wired headphones were plugged in and out could have been caused by dirt or water damage. This is courtesy of the expert opinion of Google. Now, according to this, though, nothing on the phone indicated water damage. None of the reports or extractions reflect water or dirt damage. Liberty's phone was photographed, did not show water or dirt. Miss Eldridge is unaware of any scientific or technological research suggesting water or dirt damage to an iPhone 6S would cause this. According to Apple Health's data, the phone stopped moving at 2:32, and at trial, state contended they died close to that time. And then Abby hid the phone under her body to hide the phone. You can't make this up. Before she died, after she died, during her death, who knows? The state provided additional testimony by Steve Mullen and Jerry Holman that there's no evidence that Richard Allen returned to the location where the bodies were found or ever were at the location. Ever was. If Miss Eldridge's actual expert opinion was that wired headphones were plugged in at 5:44 and unplugged 5 hours later, the state's narrative is impossible. That means someone other than Richard Allen was handling the phone multiple times long after the state contends that he left the scene, which was prior to 4 p.m., according to their theory of the crime. All right. Miss Eldridge's opinion that dirt or water could not have caused the phone to log wired headphones in and wired headphones out exculpates Mr. Allen. And look, let me add this. Our very own, well, I'm not going to name him. Maybe he doesn't want to be named, but a friend of ours, a good friend of ours, literally a friend of ours obtained the patent design for that cell phone. The patent reveals that it's necessary to plug a jack into the phone to trigger that particular indicator. Now, what's interesting, where is that Apple forum that supposedly shows uh, whatever Mr. Cecil found? We would like to review that for ourselves, actually. Anyway, let's see what else we got here. We got the abstract of judgment to correct the extra. So let's read this one because this one only adds insult to injury. And I don't know if you've added this to your study guide or your bullet points yet, but this is important. You probably should. On December 23rd, court issued an abstract of judgment, indicated that there were no mental health concerns with the defendant. Yet at trial, there was evidence presented that the defendant had significant mental health concerns. Dr. Walla, Dr. Martin, and Dr. Westcott all testified about the defendant's mental health. Hey, especially Dr. Westcott, you need to go back. If you had not already made yourself aware of Dr. Westcott's testimony, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Video evidence revealed behavior by the defendant while awaiting trial that raised concerns. Yeah, I would say all of the banging the head on the wall, the covering himself with feces, et cetera, the destruction of the devices, all the shit that he did in his mental health crisis. Yeah, I think there's mental health issues there. Plus, let's not kid ourselves. He had a prescription for years for major depressive disorder for Prozac, right? So he's medicated. He's, what do you call it? A doctor prior to his arrest had already identified that he was suffering, diagnosed. Thank you, Sarah. I told you this brain fog since COVID a year ago, a year and a half ago. It's rough. It's rough. I still reach at times. I don't even smoke the dope. So imagine if I smoked the dope, I probably couldn't string a sentence together for anything. But no, the brain fog is still significant. But yeah, he was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. He had been on prescription of Prozac, even while incarcerated or a pretrial detainee, and he went into this mental health crisis during his torture and abuse in Westville. I think there are mental health issues, but anyway, back to this. She says, or he says, providing accurate information on the abstract of judgment is critical to ensure the DOC is aware of the defendant's mental health issues. Oh, they don't care. Trust me. They want to make it so that he will be killed. I guarantee you, or deteriorate to a state of death. Look, I hate to be a pessimist in this way, but guarantee you that the state of Indiana DOC wants him dead. Okay, let's not kid ourselves here. And look, I said this before to Rick. I said, they don't want him dead right now because it would look too bad. They want him dead 6 months, a year from now. You understand what's going on here? They want him dead when no one's looking anymore, when people stop paying attention, when it's not going to raise immediate red flags. Because, you know, if he'd be found dead today, tomorrow, everyone would raise hell saying, are you kidding me? But should he be found dead 6 months, a year from now, people make a lot less noise about it. So let's not kid ourselves that the DOC is interested in maintaining his health. But this says that it's critical to ensure the DOC is aware of his mental health so that the defendant will receive continuity of care and appropriate placement, effective treatment, and medication. And that's according to Andrew Baldwin, right? So Andrew says, we respectfully request that this court issue an amended abstract of judgment reflecting the change under mental health concern from no to yes. Can you believe this judge? Listen, This just all reflects absolutely poorly right back on the Judge Francis Gull. Uh, do you honestly believe? Can you believe that this judge would click no mental health concern regarding Richard Allen? Like, can you? Yeah, I mean, that's beyond belief that she would have the gall to check no mental health concern. Anyhow, let me bring this up before we end because I'll just leave this. Let's see this one. Well, I believe that may, I'm not sure. I think that may uh, conclude our little study guide review because that pretty much sums up. You know what's funny? I don't think I'm seeing all of the chat. Well, maybe it's just delayed, but thank you, Jake Brooks. That pretty much sums up our brief study guide and review of Monday's documents or filings. Uh, and I knew going into this, people would be butthurt because people are really attached to Ron Logan. Okay. And I always found it odd. Why are people so attached to Ron Logan? You know, so the sheriff does an in-camera interview with a single 40 caliber on his desk. Noon, 6 and 10 on the news. That be a troll. Yeah, well, I don't know how many of our viewers may or may not have noticed that, but I'm sure you're aware of Lesenby's interview in which he has the 40 caliber bullet or unspent round placed right on his desk in between the camera and him. You know, it's a definite. It was a signal. It was a message. You know, in my opinion, it was a message. Now you got to ask yourself, what kind of message was it? I mean, you could go full conspiracy retard, right? Was that a message to Richard Allen to say you better do this because I have this and I'm going to use it against you? Was that like a was that a taunting to Richard Allen with that bullet? Was it a taunting to Ron Logan? Was it a taunting to Brad Weber? To someone else? Who was he taunting with that round on his desk? Question for you. Who was Doug Carter taunting with the photo of the empty bridge that was up at that April 2019 press conference? Have you ever thought about that? Ask yourself why in the change of direction press conference, why when that young guy sketch was released, why on a poster board was displayed the empty bridge photo? Don't you find that odd? Think of all the things that could have been displayed on that easel. You could have had the bridge guy still, one of the best images of the stills, a blow up of the bridge guy. You could have had that displayed. You could have had an overhead, a map of the area, with some X's and lines, and you could have had I don't know, some text. He could have had bullet points and say like, in identifying a suspect, please see if this is someone you recognize. Add the height, the weight, the age range, how you know them. Submit it to a tip to this phone number or this address. He could have had a lot of things up on that easel. But why did Doug Carter have an empty bridge up on that easel? To me, it's a similar question to why did Tobe Lesenby have that 40 caliber round placed on his desk in between him and the camera, which proved crucial when it's come around to Richard Allen, right? Because what's the big thing? What was the big thing? Bullet. Remember the stupid talking points that McClellan and the Troll Farm tried to perpetuate? Was it what were they? You girls in the chat, please help me out because you know I can't remember all this, but it was something like bullet. Come on, guys! It was three. It was like 3 words he had in his little fucking theme. You know, you guys help me out. Like I said, my no, you guys don't have it. Yeah, bullet, bridge guy, and something else. Maybe it was brutal murder. I don't know, but it seemed like 3, right? Like it was like bullet, bridge guy, and blah blah blah. Bullet, bridge guy, and brutal murder. That's da 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 da. And then what all the fucktard troll farm go and do immediately? They were running around, you know, bullet, bridge guy, and brutal murder. That's all you need to know about Richard Allen. Da 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 da. Well, they're all a fantasy. You know, let's be real here. Bridge guy. Again, earlier today on Nick's show, we ran across that. I mean, it's what proof is there that Bridge Guy was involved in a crime? For real. 0 proof, 0 evidence, 0 indicator that Bridge Guy is involved in the crime. 0 evidence that the video that was taken to capture Bridge Guy or under any sort of anxiety that there's a Bridge Guy. 0 evidence that the Bridge Guy person is the same as the voice that is speaking to the girls closer to them. Shit, for me, and I'm sure some of our unhinged fanboys around this case are gonna get triggered, but there's 0 indication to me that those girls were even there at that place and time. Remember, we've got no witnesses to those girls. Well, I believe as Betsy Blair says, she thinks she could have seen those girls, and it also could have been Bria and Kelsey. We don't know. There's allegations that there's proof that those girls arrived to the trails. I don't know about that. There's just like I guess the basic point that we've always keep coming back to is the absolute lack of transparency that leaves the public questioning every single aspect of this. And hey, if you didn't want it all questioned, you would have produced convincing or compelling reasons to stop people from questioning it. Like, show us something. Show us something. And still, it's so odd. Still, 7 years later, we haven't seen a thing. All we know is that what we have seen has been total BS. You know, yeah, you've seen the Bridge Guy. That's it's so heavily altered that it's basically meaningless. So essentially, you've seen nothing. But I think it was a good week. I mean, if I'm going to reflect back on the week, I would say, yeah, overall, it's a good week. Overall, it's a good week because it's forward momentum, it's progress. And hey, maybe for the next month, we'll have everyone talking a lot about Ron Logan, and then that phase will pass. Okay, so remember the phase. Remember after the Franks memorandum, there was a very long, extended phase of people talking about the Odinists. So we'll go through these phases. You know what I'd like to talk about? I'd like to talk about yeah, let's see the evidence from the victim's phone. Let's let the public have the unedited raw footage from that phone that was in the possession of Liberty. Let us have it. And that would be a starting place. Maybe cough up the interrogations of all of these witnesses. Hmm? Could we have that? Could we have transcripts or notes of the Cheyenne, both Shelbys, Daniel Pearson, the multiple Kelseys, the all the other important interrogations or interviews? Could we have, if you want the public to stop the insanity, how about cough some shit up? I mean, why not provide the entire trial transcripts for free to the public? You could make a website. Yeah, you could make a website. Oh, guess what? Guess what, Judge Go? There are AI programs that will take your court reporter's recordings and produce transcripts so that you don't have to do anything and she doesn't have to exercise much labor. You just let the AI transcribe those recordings, pop them on a website, let everyone see, give the public some sort of token of transcripts. I mean, of transparency by way of transcripts. I mean, I think if you would give all the transcripts, if you would give some of the discovery, if you would give some transparency to this process, the people might ease up. They might be satisfied with some sort of information. But right now, we're all still operating blind. So people are not happy. But yeah, thank you, Jake. We want a raw dog. It says it's Big JD. Has my theory of Wilson Bridge changed? Not at all. Not at all. 0%. Listen, I very explicitly stated those girls were taken somewhere. Where I believe they were taken was Wilson Bridge. You want to talk conspiracy theories? Let's go. This is an ideal time for me, but on a Friday night when I'm done with my little presentation. Ideal time to go conspiracy nut on you about Wilson Bridge. Here's the deal. Let's see what's happening here. Okay. Wilson Bridge. I don't know how many. Okay, show of hands. How many of you out there have been to Wilson Bridge and been down in the woods there? I don't see anybody saying yeah, but yeah. So Wilson Bridge is it is the ideal location for several things. Let me lay them out for you. And these are my opinions. First of all, the Brown family lives across the creek from Wilson Bridge parking area. Now, at Wilson Bridge, there's a pull-off where you can park your vehicle. And you can walk right down into the woods down there at the creek. Wilson Bridge is an ideal hiding place for several reasons. One is Wilson Bridge is extremely secluded. The road is elevated quite a bit, and the woods are thick, so the bottom is deep down from the road level. So it's an ideal hiding place. So not only is it secluded out of the way, it's also dropped down and hidden. So it has a double layer of seclusion. Then there's a third layer, which is that there's a culvert there that we call the cave. Okay, the cave. We don't even just call that the cave. A bunch of the locals call it a cave or the cave. And it's a culvert. It's technically, it's referred to as Wilson's Culvert on the historical bridge map for the area. Wilson's Culvert at Wilson's Bridge is what we term the cave. It's an ideal hiding spot that has 3 layers of seclusion. So it's a culvert under the road, so that's secluded. The woods or the ground level there is dropped down, so that's seclusion. And then it's way out of the way, a mile away from the Ron Logan property, etc. So it's quite secluded. Fourthly, it's the ideal spot to put in a canoe. Matter of fact, it would be where you would put in a canoe to go anywhere up along that creek in that area. For instance, the rumor is that's where canoes were put in 2017. Thirdly, access. Adjacent to the woods, which are owned by the Mears at Wilson Bridge, there is an open field that's locally referred to as the Mears Bottoms. That open field is very interesting for the reason that there's a driveway on down into it. So as I mentioned, the road is elevated, okay, and the bottoms are down low. So whereas along that entire stretch, there's no other way to access down to that creek. Well, oddly enough, right there at that open field, there's a drive that drives on down where you could where you could drive on down into that open field. And I've documented it for you. When I went out there, I recorded and documented so that you could see. Once you drive down into that open field, you hook a left, you cut a left, and the left goes right on into the woods, and there's a clear cut path that was obviously made for four-wheelers or trucks. It's wide enough for a truck to fit, but I assume primarily it would be four-wheelers for good times, right? But what's funny is that we found a shooting range there. So what we found is that in that open field, it's set up so that should you be in that open field back a ways and you aim towards the woods, uh, it was a place where obviously there had been a bunch of shooting practice, target practice. And like I said, right at that point, you can enter the woods in the vehicle. So understand what I'm getting at here is that you can pull a vehicle right on into the woods, damn near to Wilson Bridge. Well, what would that mean? Well, for me, that would mean you can bring a canoe or several canoes in the back of a truck right down into that Wilson Bridge area and then put in. Or you could bring some bodies or take some bodies. You get what I'm saying? Um, Another thing I learned about that area is that that area that we're referring to there as Mears Bottoms or the open field, it's it was told to me by a local who had done so that it was a place that people would often camp, and not just camp, but camp with their families or sons or children or scout troops or militia groups. So in essence, it's saying that that open field, it's convenient to go out there and camp with a large group of people in several tents and do some shooting, some fishing, some dope smoking, some meth cooking, and this sort of thing. Now, all of that area that I'm discussing at this moment is owned by the Mears family, who also happen to own that butcher shop and that large house and that barn and that shed and all of that property across from the trail's entrance. So when I went out there, uh, I, I looked at it very closely, and I also flew the drone. So those of you who may be new to the channel, if you explore around in my channel, you'll find some drone videos, and I took drone footage of the whole area there, so you could see it. Okay, so you could see it. So should there ever be a need for you to examine that area and you want a bird's eye view, there's drone footage that I've taken, as well as boots on the ground footage, and as well as photography. I took a lot of photos so that you can get an absolutely clear idea of the lay of the land. Um, Now remember, for years, people have said that one of those girls, at a minimum, was brought in a canoe down over to Ron Logan's, which means you would assume that one of those girls, whoever it was brought in the canoe, would have been dead or injured. I don't really have a theory on that at this point because it's too hard to know at the timeline. All we've gathered from what's been disclosed is that it appears, I mean, I'm pretty confident in saying at this time that those young ladies died at different times. Okay. Which makes things more interesting or concerning. Um, them becoming deceased at different times is absolutely concerning. Uh, at this time, what I think is indicated, unfortunately, is that Abby was deceased. and placed down there at Ron Logan's, and that Libby's life was taken from her down there at Ron Logan's. So I would assume that Abby would have already been placed, and then Libby would have been brought to the area, and then her life ended. So we know this for certain. There were screams in the 2 a.m. hour on the 14th. That's absolutely certain. That's absolutely certain. Okay, here, let me reiterate. What's absolutely certain is that in the 2 a.m. hour, there were blood-curdling, horrific screams from the area of Ron Logan's. It was witnessed by several individuals, one of who is deceased, and a couple who are alive. I think that would have mattered. Remember how I consistently say there's an issue here with the lack of inclusion of certain witnesses, almost as if the witnesses are being excluded intentionally because their testimony would make the state's theory not work. So this is why I'm especially concerned with the omission of certain witnesses. I think they should be looked at and brought into this. Now, what else on Wilson Bridge? So you've seen me post, and Rafi, several times, the stick structure, which we call the hut or the shack. Here's one thing. We're absolutely certain that those photos and that shack were located in Delphi. Okay. The argument, the argument amongst three of us is where that shack was specifically located. So my belief, for a reason that I cannot really openly state, because the witness or the person does not want to be identified out of fear, their contention is that that shack is at Wilson Bridge, within eyeshot of Wilson Bridge. I believe that Rafi seems to think that that shack was in the area near the bridge, the high bridge. And then Mr. John, I'll call him. There's someone named Mr. John. His belief is that it's further. What would you call that? I can't remember the name of that creek. I think it's called Bridge Creek. So there's a little creek that breaks off from Deer Creek. I think it's called Bridge Creek. He said, Mr. John says that that little hut or shack, wood structure, was closer to Bridge Creek, the confluence of Bridge Creek and Deer Creek. So I don't know, all of those of you who are experts in this subject matter, you should understand what I'm saying. There's a confluence of Bridge and Deer Creek, which is where Mr. John says that the shack is. I think Rafi believes it's somewhere near the High Bridge. And obviously, as I'm saying, I believe it was within eyeshot of the High Bridge. I mean, of the Wilson Bridge. So that's my entire thing with Wilson Bridge. But I'd only like to add this. There are the remnants of Wilson's Cave. Okay. And what we did, we had Josh and Noe get in a canoe and go down and find the remnants of Wilson's Cave. So it is true that there was, in the past, a substantial cave structure called Wilson's Cave, which has subsequently collapsed. Okay, so since it was discovered 150 years ago, it has collapsed. So Wilson's Cave is no more. It's a remnant of a cave. But I found it interesting how with all of this, it's so odd here in this mythos that there are two of everything. Okay, we got two Daniel Pearsons, we got two Shelbys, we got two BWs, we got two DPs, we got two this, two that, two bridges and two caves. Okay, so like I said, the whole concept that over these years, Wilson's cave or a cave or the cave or a tunnel or the tunnel, tunnels, all of these memes or ideas have been out there floating around as part of this disinformation, misinformation in this case. But I think that there's no difference between the two. I think that the cave, the tunnel, Wilson's cave, the culvert, it's all one thing. And I think it's because this Wilson's culvert over by Wilson's Bridge, it resembles a cave. It's not far from Wilson's cave. It is a tunnel, it is a culvert, and it resembles a cave. It's a known party spot. When I went out there, there are bottles, there's evidence of partying all over that area by the tunnel, cave, culvert. What it appears to me is that it was an area where parties would happen. And remember, it's in between. So this culvert exists in between that open field and Wilson Bridge. So in between the field where the partying, the camping, the shooting would happen, the fishing, the doping, in between that open field and the Wilson Bridge proper, there's a woods, and in that woods is the culvert or the cave or the tunnel. So what it makes me imagine is that the reason that this has been a topic of discussion over the years is that it was all conflated and clouded, but basically there must have been some use of a tunnel or a cave or a culvert or a hiding place like that in this commission of this crime. And so it makes sense to me now that if that hut was somewhere near the tunnel or the culvert, and that was all near the bridge, Wilson Bridge, where you're easily able to put in canoes and also easily able to access with a vehicle, it becomes all one thing that starts to, have some continuity to it. If you can link all those if you can form all those links together into a chain, it starts to seem like there's something there. Now I found it odd. I did not find needles because I expected to find needles. Well, what I found though, I found clear burn pits. I found clear evidence in the form of beer bottles, soda bottles, cans. I found what looked to be like could have been used as a base of a camp, and also somewhat of a I have it filmed. There's somewhat of a stump that had been cut clean on top, almost as it could be used as a cutting board or as an altar or as a table when you're camping. I'll tell you this, if you're at Wilson Bridge, you can't see High Bridge. If you're at High Bridge, you can't see Wilson Bridge. Last data point I would give to you all is if you were to walk from one to the other, so technically it's approximately 1.3 miles from High Bridge, Wilson Bridge. And I don't mean by air. I don't mean as a crow flies. I mean by foot. It takes approximately 28 to 30 minutes. Okay, so 28, 30 minutes to traverse on foot, to walk from the end of the High Bridge to the beginning of Wilson Bridge. Either way you go would take approximately 28 minutes. So I guess that's my whole the primary thoughts that rise to my mind, surface when I think about Wilson Bridge. So there are there is a there are theories that I have that I'm not going to get into about what I think happened regarding that location, but those are some of my impressions. And like I said, I did take photography and video, but let me now leave that and see what the chat is saying, because I may just end it, and or maybe they may be a couple questions. But yeah, Wilson Bridge to me, and let me just give you, I guess, to close out on that is my gut feeling. Okay, so my gut feeling. Here's a funny thing. Okay, if this means anything to you, and some of you and me, my gut feeling at the high bridge is no gut feeling. That, like I mentioned earlier today, my gut feeling out there at high bridge is absolutely no way. It's too wide open. You never want to get caught out here trying to do something like that. All right. My gut feeling at Wilson Bridge is something happened out here. Okay. So whatever, that's my gut. Okay. I'm telling you, my gut at Wilson Bridge is oh my God, yeah, something happened out here. So this feels right. It smells right. If I was a criminal, it would look right. It's safer to go into commission of some crime out here. Like, and just the raw gut feeling walking. I'll tell you this, and I hate to say it because I don't like giving people anything to blast me with, but I'll tell you this way. When I was walking the ground at Wilson Bridge, I felt like I was walking on sacred ground. Okay. When I was walking the bridge or the high bridge, I did not feel like I was walking on sacred ground. Okay. So for some of you, that may have some meaning, but for me, it has meaning. So, okay. And that's all I got. I think I just spent myself because I'm kind of getting emotional now thinking about it. It's a lot of feeling out there. But let's see. I just want to thank everyone who's here. I guess I'll end it because I feel all sad now. I want to say thank you to Radar and Mino Dino, Jim Chrisman, Kayla, Dirty Diana, Lisa, 26 Dead Zombies, Who's Your Daddy, Sunflower Soul, Mama J, Deanna Burdett, Kayla, V, Heather Brown, Amy, Miss K, Sweet Dude Shibby, Rosemarie, Cosmo. I have Apophis, Cromley, Rambo, Who's Your Daddy, Dirty Diana. I may have already said your name, Mama J, Polygraph. Who am I missing? Joseph, Plain Iron, Deputy Dog, Mandy, Bezo Jones, everybody here. Pert in it. Um, Trail Junkie or Trial Junkie, Rhonda Holton. Thanks everyone for being here. I didn't realize you were talking so much when I was talking. This chat was going crazy. Monday. mm, Rebecca Ann. Yeah, everybody who's here. Thanks for being here. Oh God. Okay. All right. So there used to be parties at Wilson Bridge, specifically in the summertime. We go tubing in the creek, and us underage would drink about 15 years ago when I lived in Rossville. Really? What else you got to say about that, Cosmo? Thank you for adding. Hey, Jane from the country. I'm watching the chat. But it's a nice video. I mean, a nice comment, Cosmo. I thank you for leaving that. Yes, I have Apophis. You're welcome to use any of my footage there that you need to. But that's what I know. Okay, that's basically my impressions of that whole deal. What I would like to know is who took those photos of that shack structure made of sticks. Why did they take those photos in the way that they are taken? And where was the specific location of that? Don't you find it odd that no one's ever claimed and proven claim of those photos of that structure or why that was produced and dropped onto the internet? I have my theories. But I guess when I connect it all back to what I was saying, the Browns property is on the other side of Wilson Bridge from where you would enter uh, the bottoms down there. So there are remember, the Brown family is tied to this whole story. The Browns, the Mears, the Webbers, Logans. Are you understanding what I'm getting at? How, why is it that all these property owners of all of this property seem to be like intimately tied to this thing along with the families of the victims? Yeah, sweet tooth shibby, yeah. Everyone not named Allen. It's a good point. That's a golf clap, right? Everyone not named Allen is a yeah, great one. Just like everything else, his name is attached to nothing. You know, it's like there's DNA, no DNA attached to a single thing. You know, no cell phone data attached to. Remember, with Rick Allen, what they always want you to forget: there's nothing digital, and I mean no communicating with the girls, no searching about anything. Like, remember the huge controversy? The troll farm again tried to. They tried to ignite this fire and implicating guilt and affecting potential future jurors before the trial. And they were running around saying, wait until his Google searches drop. Wait until the Google searches drop. Wait until you see his Google searches. It was supposed to be like, oh my God, the Google search is going to prove he killed those girls. Yeah. And what did you get? What did you get? Flaccid, right? A flaccid Google search history from Richard Allen is what you got. Him and his wife searched horror movies once or twice to watch scary movies. Speaking of Keegan Klein, yeah, the Klein's Google search is a whole lot more concerning than Richard Allen's. But let's just forget about that. So, yeah, yeah, it's been something else. But like I said in my criticism of these PR stops that McClellan and Holman and all of them are making is that everything they had done was in order to influence potential future jurors. And it seemed that it's worked. It seemed that it worked because remember, the goal here was to uh, sort of like you want to you want to uh, you want to elevate the victims to make them perfect and loved and adorable in all ways. You know, you want to really put a beautiful veneer over the victims. And then the opposite with Richard Allen. They made sure to paint Richard Allen as an absolute uh, threat. You know, by marching him around as Hannibal Lecter with all of the get up he had on in the prison uniform with the shackles and all of that. Okay, and then by sending this troll farm around to consistently paint him as he's guilty, he's the killer, he's gonna plea, he's a predator. They did all they could with the PR to paint him as guilty and as a monster so that it would affect the jury pool. So when that jury got selected at their base level, subconsciously, they would already be picturing this guy as a monster. And I think it's worked. It was part of what worked because remember, they had a paper thin case against Richard Allen. It's just nothing. It was a whole bunch of nothing. But by putting this tunnel vision right directed on this monster and then excluding any context whatsoever and any of this other evidence and any of these other witnesses and any of this other stuff, uh, they were able to get a jury to comply. And that's the reason that they've done this. And that's the reason they were going so hard at us. Remember the attacks that were going on and all the chaos in this community. Why do you think it was happening? Okay. Anyway, I think that's my show because my voice is going at it and it's getting late. My voice is like, can't handle. So I guess I'll ease up and let it go. But I appreciate you all so much for being here. Thank you for being here. Well, I hope it was some entertainment or some value for you. I sure did enjoy it, and I hope to see you again. Okay, we'll be back, and in the meantime, please appreciate the channel. Check out the other information for those of you who are new or on the replay. Please leave some comments down below. Hit the like, and check out the other things that the channel has to offer. And we've got a little bit of history here in the video section and on the community pages. Hope you like it. Um, anyway, you dark hearts, I appreciate you for being here. Um, and like I said, and I constantly reiterate because the gaslight is so strong, there's nobody that wants Richard Allen to walk free if he's guilty. People here want justice for those little girls. The thing is, though, we want real justice for those little girls, which would not involve the railroading of someone, but real evidence and real guilt and real resolution, which should cause peace in the community. You know, that's the thing about music theory you learn is that the way music works is you get to this cadence point where all the tension is built at its highest, And then there's a resolution, which is that resolve, that calming last chord. Um, it's a sigh of relief. This community wants that, and that would be justice for the girls to allow everyone to experience that resolve and that sigh, that resolution, that sigh of relief. We want that, and I truly do mean that. I believe that transparency and the bulk of the information would provide that. And until that is provided, and until it comes, there's going to continually be tension, and it's unfortunate because that's the how was I saying it the other day? The confusion is not justice for those girls, and so we want real justice for those girls. And hey, I do believe one day it will come, because there's so many questions to be answered, and I believe the answering of those questions will provide the truth. So thanks everyone for being here. All right, cheers to you, and God bless Abigail Williams and Liberty German, two little girls who died before their time. And we will pray for them and for each other. So God bless all of you. Thanks for having a wonderful chat. And hey, if you're one of the ones who got all pissed off and butt hurt, just get over it, let it pass, wake up to breathe in a new day, another day, and we'll move forward. And we'll be happy, because we don't have to be right. We just have to be right. And God bless you. And I appreciate that. Good night.